Hi, welcome to Luna Listens to Books channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. I thought my life was perfect. A loving husband, Alex Weston, and plans for a family of our own. But perfection is fragile and mine shattered the night a woman walked into our home, pregnant, claiming my husband as the father. I'm Sophia Harper, a wife whose faith in love is tested by betrayal, lies, and a past I never saw coming. Alex insists it's a mistake, swearing he's innocent, but the woman carries photos, receipts, and secrets that make me question everything. The Alex I thought I knew is slipping away, and in his place is a man tangled in conspiracies I can't yet unravel. I'm not the kind of woman who walks away without a fight. Elise, the woman who claims Alex's loyalty, won't intimidate me, but her smug threats whisper of something darker. And then there's Liam, a shadow from Alex's past, offering answers for a price that might cost me my soul. How far will go to uncover the truth? Is Alex a victim caught in Elise's trap or the architect of my heartbreak? The deeper I dig, the more twisted the lies become. And when I finally piece it together, the truth might not just break me, it could destroy us all. Can love survive betrayal this deep? Or is vengeance the only way forward? Sophia, do you think he really loves you? Wait until you see the evidence I've brought. My hands froze mid-adjustment of the gold clasp on my necklace. Alex had stepped out to take a phone call, leaving me in the warm glow of the living room. Everything was perfect: the faint scent of roses, the soft notes of our favorite love song, and the flickering candlelight. But now Elise stood in the doorway, a sly smirk curling her lips. Her pregnant belly, round and unmistakable, turned the air in the room ice cold. Who are you? I managed, though my voice trembled. I'm Elise, she said, her tone saccharine, the woman carrying Alex's child. My breath hitched, and for a moment the room swayed beneath me. That's impossible, I stammered. Alex would never. Elise laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. She reached into her bag, pulling out a stack of photos. One by one, she dropped them onto the coffee table like cards in a twisted game of poker. Each photo sliced through me: a smiling Alex with his arm around her, Alex kissing her forehead, Alex in places I didn't recognize, looking far too comfortable. Oh, sweetheart, Elise drawled, you didn't know. Did you? Your eyest his pretty little wife, a decoration. I'm the one he loves. This, she gestured at her stomach, is proof of that. My knees buckled, but I refused to sit. Sitting meant surrender, and I wasn't ready to give her that satisfaction. You're lying, I said, my voice sharp now, cutting through the storm of emotions threatening to drown me. Elise arched a perfectly plucked brow and leaned closer, her perfume too sweet, too suffocating, filling my senses. Oh, am I? She pushed another photo toward me. Ask him yourself. But I'd be careful, darling. Men like Alex, they're good at hiding things. Until they can't anymore. The sound of the front door clicking shut made us both turn. Alex stood there, pale as a ghost, his eyes darting between us. Alex, I said, desperate for AR answer, for anything that made sense. Who is she? Sophia, I can explain. Explain. That one word cracked the fragile dam holding back my fury. Explain what? I snapped. That this stranger is standing in our home, on our anniversary, claiming you're the father of her child. Alex opened his mouth, but Elise cut him off with a laugh. Oh, Alex, don't bother lying. She's already seen the photos. He flinched, and for the first time I saw it, guilt etched into his features like a scar. The air grew thick with tension, the kind that weighed heavy on your chest and made it hard to breathe. My mind raced, piecing together fragments of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. It's not what it looks like, Alex said, his voice hoarse. Then what is it? I demanded, my voice rising. Because it looks a hell of a lot like betrayal. Elise smirked, leaning against the doorframe as if she owned the Placee's been lying to you for months, Sophia. Playing the perfect husband while running back to me. Her words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. But I wasn't about to let her see me break, and you're proud of that. I shot back. You're bragging about being someone's dirty little secret. Her smirk faltered, but only for a moment. Better a secret than a fool, she said, her voice dripping with venom. At least I know where I stand. The room seemed smaller, the walls closing in as the weight of her words sank in. Enough, Alex said, stepping between us. His voice was firm, but there was a crack in his composure. Alex, I said, my voice trembling. Tell me the truth. Right now. He hesitated, and that hesitation was all the answer I needed. The tears I'd been holding back threatened to spill, but I refused to let them. Not here. Not in front of her. Without another word, I turned and stormed out of the house. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but it wasn't enough to numb the pain. I reached the driveway. I heard Alex's voice low, urgent. Elise, don't do this. Please. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. His tone wasn't angry. It was desperate. What was he begging her for? Sophia, do you think confronting him changes anything? Men like Alex, they lie, deny, and move on. Elise's voice echoed in my mind, her smirk burned into my memory. I clenched my fists, trying to focus on my breathing. The dim light of the bedroom couldn't drown out her venomous words. Alex sat across the room, his face pale. He looked like a boy caught stealing cookies, not a man accused of betrayal. Sophia, please, I didn't know. You didn't know she was pregnant. I cut him off, my voice sharp as broken glass. Or you didn't know how to tell me. He flinched. For a second, I thought he might break down, but he stayed silent. That silence was a knife, twisting deeper. Say something, Alex, I pressed, stepping closer. Anything to convince me you're not the monster she says you are. His jaw tightened, his eyes meeting mine with an intensity that made my heart lurch. She's lying, Sophia. I haven't seen Elise in years. Years? I snapped. So you're admitting you knew her? Were you with her before me? The room felt like it was shrinking. His hesitation answered for him. It was before us, he said finally. A mistake I left behind. My chest tightened, the ache spreading like wildfire. A mistake, I said, laughing bitterly. She's carrying your child, Alex. That's not something you just leave behind. His head dropped, and I caught the faintest tremor in his hands. I didn't know, Sophia, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know she was pregnant. I swear. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But Elise's words wrapped around my mind like chains. Do you love her? The question spilled out before I could stop it. His head snapped up, his eyes wide. No, never. I love you, Sophia. Love. The word felt hollow, a shell of what it once was. Then why didn't you tell me about her? I demanded. Why hide it? His silence was deafening. I stared at him, waiting, begging for a reason to trust him. I was ashamed, he said finally. I didn't want my past to ruin us. It was the first honest thing he'd said all night, and it shattered me. Well, congratulations, Alex, I said, my voice trembling. Your past is here, and it's doing a damn good job of ruining us anyway. The tears I'd been holding back spilled over. I hated crying in front of him, hated showing how much his betrayal gutted me. Alex stepped forward, reaching for me, but I moved away. The space between us felt insurmountable. Don't, I whispered. Just don't. My gaze fell to the coffee table where his phone rested. A single notification blinked on the screen, a message from Elise. My heart sank as I picked it up. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Alex, we need to talk. You owe me more than silence. My breath caught. The message wasn't just a plea. It was a threat. What's this? I asked, holding up the phone. His face went pale. Sophia, don't what? I said, my voice rising. Don't dig deeper. Don't find out what other secrets you're hiding. His hand reached for the phone, but I pulled away, my heart pounding in my chest. We both know the truth, Alex. If you don't tell her, I will. The room spun, the weight of her words crushing me. I looked at him, the man I thought I knew, and realized I didn't recognize him anymore. What truth? I asked, my voice trembling. What is she talking about? He froze, his lips parting, but no sound came out. The phone buzzed again, another message lighting up the screen. Tick-tock, Alex. The clock's running out. My hands shook as I placed the phone back on the table. You need to tell me everything, I said, my voice firm despite the storm raging inside me. No more lies, Alex. No more half-truths. His shoulders slumped, and for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. Sophia, he began, his voice breaking. There's more. The sound of the front door slamming interrupted him. My heart jumped, and we both turned toward the noise. Elise stood in the doorway, her expression calm, almost smug. Well, isn't this cozy, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. My blood ran cold. What are you doing here? Alex asked, his voice laced with panic. I told you, Elise said, stepping into the room. If you won't tell her, I will. Her gaze shifted to me, and the smirk on her lips sent a chill down my spine. Are you ready for the truth, Sophia? Sophia, don't tell me you're surprised. Men like Alex, they always have a backup plan. And women like you're just the warm-up act. Elise's words played on repeat in my mind like a cursed melody. No matter how hard I tried to focus, the sting of her smug tone lingered. Warm-up act. Was that all I had ever been to Alex? Sophia, why are you digging into this? Are you trying to hurt yourself more? It was Grace, my best friend, her voice hesitant over the phone. She didn't know the half of it. If only I could stop. But how could I? Every thread I pulled unraveled another secret, another truth Alex had carefully hidden. My laptop screen glowed in the darkened room, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The transfer logs blinked back at me, a series of payments from Alex's account to Elise. Each one a dagger to my chest. This wasn't just a past mistake. This was ongoing. You owe me more than silence, Alex. What the hell is this? My voice cracked as I held up my phone, showing him the damning evidence. Ush. He stood frozen in the doorway, his face drained of color. Sophia, don't lie to me. Not again. I interrupted, my voice raw. Are you paying her to keep quiet? Or is this something else? The room felt like a vacuum, the weight of his silence pressing down on me. It's not what you think, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. My laugh was bitter, sharp. Not what I think. Then enlighten me, Alex. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been financing your mistress. His shoulders sagged, and for a moment, I thought I saw guilt flicker in his eyes. She threatened me, he confessed. If I didn't send the money, she'd ruin everything. My stomach churned. Threatened? Alex wasn't the victim here. He was complicit. And you thought keeping me in the dark was the solution? I spat. His gaze fell to the floor, and for the first time, I saw the cracks in his carefully constructed facade. I was trying to protect you, he said weakly. Protect me? I echoed, incredulous. By lying to me, by letting her control our lives. I stepped back, needing the physical distance to think, to breathe. Elise's face flashed in my mind, her smirk more vivid than ever. She was playing a game, and I was her pawn. No, not anymore. I'm done, Alex. Done with your lies, your excuses, all of it. I grabbed my coat, ignoring his protests. The night air hit me like a slap as I stepped outside. My hands trembled as I dialed a number I had sworn I wouldn't. Grace, I need your help, I said when she answered. There's something about Elise. Something I have to uncover. The hours blurred as Grace and I combed through public records, social media accounts, anything that could give us a lead. Wait, Grace said, her voice sharp. Here. She turned her laptop toward me, a triumphant gleam in her eye. On the screen was a grainy photo of Elise with an older man. The caption read, Elise Montgomery and Thomas Carrington spotted at gala. Thomas Carrington, a name synonymous with power, wealth, and scandal. She's not just a gold digger, Grace said grimly. She's a professional. My heart sank as we uncovered article after article linking Elise to a string of high-profile men, all of whom had mysteriously fallen from grace. But there was one name that kept popping up, one connection that made my blood run cold. Alex. She wasn't just using him. She was destroying him. Sophia, this is dangerous, Grace warned. If she's capable of this. I shook my head, determination hardening my resolve. I have to know the truth, Grace, all of it. The truth came at a price. And I paid it when I found the final piece of the puzzle, a bank statement with Elise's account details. The payments from Alex were there, just as I'd seen. But there was something else, something that stopped my heart. Transfers from Elise's account. To Thomas Carrington. What is this? I whispered, my voice shaking. It's leverage, Grace said, her face pale. My mind raced. Leverage for what? A plan. A setup. The pieces didn't fit until I noticed the date of the last transfer. 1 week ago. She's still working with him, I said, my voice barely audible. And Alex. He's their pawn. Before I could process it, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Meet me tomorrow. Midnight. The truth will cost you, Sophia. My blood ran cold as I stared at the words, the sender obvious. Elise. What truth? And what price would I have to pay to uncover it? The screen dimmed, but her words burned bright in my mind. The clock was ticking, and I was running out of time. You think I'm scared of you, Sophia? You're just another desperate wife clinging to scraps. Elise's voice slithered through the receiver, each word designed to cut deep. I tightened my grip on the phone, knuckles whitening as her mocking laugh echoed. Another desperate wife. She had no idea. Let's cut to the chase, Elise. You called me. What do you want? The line crackled with a loaded silence, her hesitation as telling as her arrogance. Then came her reply, dripping with venom. Meet me. Midnight. It's time you learn how little control you actually have. My chest tightened, anger and unease warring within me. I forced a steady breath, refusing to let her see how she was rattling me. Name the place. Pier 47. Don't keep me waiting, she said before hanging up. The sharp beep in my ear was a final slap, one I wouldn't let her walk away from unscathed. My gaze drifted to Alex, slumped on the couch, his head buried in his hands. He didn't even look up as I grabbed my coat. Sophia, don't go. You don't know what she's capable of, Alex murmured, his voice cracking under the weight of guilt. I stopped at the door, my pulse thrumming with resolve. No, Alex. You don't know what I'm capable of. The pier was shrouded in darkness, the salty breeze biting through my thin jacket. Shadows stretched long under flickering lampposts, every creak of the wooden boards setting my nerves on G. Midnight meetings with a blackmailer. How cliché. Elise stood at the edge of the pier, her silhouette sharp against the dim glow of the city skyline. She turned as I approached, a smirk curling her lips. Punctual. I like that, she drawled, her tone laced with mockery. I didn't respond, my gaze locking onto hers, searching for cracks in her confident facade. She stepped closer, her heels clicking like the ticking of a clock. You look tense, Sophia. Afraid of what you might learn. Cut the theatrics, Elise. Tell me why I'm here. Her laughter was as cold as the night air. Straight to business. Fine. You're here because you need me. I arched an eyebrow, refusing to rise to her bait. Need you? You're delusional. Am I? Elise purred, pulling a folded paper from her coat. Do you know what Alex was really hiding? My stomach churned as she waved the paper like a prize. I snatched it from her hand, my heart pounding as my eyes scanned the document. A contract. Signed by Alex. An agreement to transfer his shares in his company to Thomas Carrington. Thomas Carrington, the man funding Elise's schemes. What is this? I demanded, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. It's leverage, she said, her smirk deepening. Your husband isn't just paying me to keep quiet. He's selling his soul to cover up your little scandals. My blood ran cold, her words striking a nerve I didn't know existed. My scandals. Oh, don't play dumb, Sophia, the adoption, the hidden assets in your name. Alex has been cleaning up your messes for years. My heart raced as her words unraveled the fragile threads of my reality. You're lying, I hissed, stepping closer. Alex would have told me. Would he? Elise interrupted, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. He's been too busy saving you from yourself. The document crumpled in my shaking hand, my vision blurring with tears of rage and confusion. Why tell me this now? What's your game? Elise tilted her head, a predator toying with its prey. Because I like you, Sophia. You're smarter than most. And I'm offering you a chance to end this. My laugh was sharp, bitter. End this? By what? Letting you win. By walking away, she said, her tone suddenly serious. Take what you can and leave Alex to fend for himself. If you stay, you'll both burn. My fists clenched at her audacity, the urge to lash out nearly overwhelming. But I forced myself to meet her gaze, my voice steady despite the storm raging within me. You think I'll let you destroy us? You're nothing but a parasite. And you're nothing but collateral damage, she snapped, her smirk replaced by icy determination. Choose wisely, Sophia. You won't get another chance. She turned and walked away, her figure disappearing into the shadows. I stood frozen, the weight of her ultimatum crushing me. Walk away, or fight a battle I might not win. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text lighting up the screen. Alex isn't worth it. Let him fall. No name, no number. But I didn't need one. Thomas Carrington had entered the game. My breath hitched, my resolve hardening. This wasn't just about Alex or Elise anymore. This was a war, and I was done playing nice. They wanted me to fall. I'd show them how high I could rise. You've underestimated the wrong woman, I whispered to the empty pier. The wind howled around me as I walked away, the battle lines drawn. Do you want the truth, or does the lie keep you warmer at night? Elise's voice was silk dipped in venom. She leaned back in the leather chair, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the small flash drive she dangled like bait. The room was dimly lit, shadows pooling in the corners. The air carried the faint scent of her expensive perfume, cloying and suffocating. If you have something to say, say it. My tone was sharp, steady. Inside, my nerves were unraveling thread by thread. She smirked, taking her time. It was her game, her stage. She wanted me to squirm, and God help me, I refused to give her that satisfaction. Fine, play this. She slid the flash drive across the table. It stopped inches from my hand, the weight of its implications already crushing. My fingers hesitated before snatching it up. A small laugh escaped her, like she'd already won. You'll need privacy for that, she cooed, crossing her legs elegantly. Let's just say it's enlightening. My stomach churned as I clutched the drive, my nails biting into my palm. You think this changes anything? You're delusional if you do. Sophia, darling, she said, tilting her head like I was a child who didn't understand. This doesn't just change the game, it is the game. I stood, chair scraping against the floor. My knees felt weak, but I refused to show it. I turned to leave, her words lashed out like a whip. Oh, and about Alex I froze. He's not just bad at loyalty. He's bad at covering his tracks. Did he ever tell you he wasn't the only one pulling the strings? My blood turned to ice. I spun to face her, my composure cracking. What are you talking about? Elise leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand, her smile that of a predator toying with a wounded animal. You'll see. But be warned, once you press play, you'll wish you hadn't. The flash drive felt heavier in my pocket. As I stepped into the elevator, the walls seemed to close in, my breath hitching as my mind spun with possibilities. Alex, Elise, and now a new player. Someone else pulling strings. You're stronger than this, I whispered to my reflection in the elevator mirror. Back at the apartment, the silence was oppressive. Alex was absent again, and that was probably for the best. I needed clarity, not his half-truths and excuses. My hands shook as I inserted the drive into my laptop. The screen blinked to life, displaying a single audio file. Confession. MP3. Get it over with, I muttered, hitting play. The first voice was unmistakable Alex. I don't know if I can keep this up. Alex said. My breath caught. His tone was low, anxious, raw in a way I'd never heard before. You don't have a choice, Alex. Unless you want Sophia finding out about everything. Elise said. She doesn't deserve this. Alex said. Oh, please. She deserves worse. You're lucky I'm giving you an out. Elise said. My vision blurred, tears welling as I clung to the armrest of the chair. But the next words shattered me completely. What about Thomas? He's expecting results. Alex said. Thomas will get what he wants. But don't fool yourself, he's not doing this for you. Or me. Elise said. Then who? Alex said. Sophia, of course. You think you're the prize. She's the queen on the board. The rest of us are just pawns. Elise said. The audio ended abruptly, leaving a deafening silence in its wake. My mind screamed with questions, but one drowned out the rest. Who was Thomas Carrington, and why was I his target? No, I whispered, gripping the desk. This isn't happening. The door clicked open behind me, and Alex stepped in. His tie hung loose, his face pale, and his eyes met mine with the weight of 1,000 unsaid truths. Sophia! Don't, I snapped, standing so quickly the chair toppled over. You lied to me. About everything. He reached for me, but I stepped back, my chest heaving. Let me explain, he pleaded. Explain? I barked a bitter laugh. How do you explain being a puppet for Thomas Carrington? Or letting Elise tear me apart while you stood by? His face crumbled, guilt and desperation warring in his expression. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. But it did, Alex. And now I'm the one paying for it. The phone on the desk buzzed, its screen lighting up with a single message. A move fast, Sophia. The queen always falls first. My breath hitched. Alex saw the screen and paled further. Sophia, you have to trust me. Trust you, I snapped. After this, you've made me a target, Alex. I can fix it. His voice cracked, but I saw it for what it was, empty promises. Clenching the phone, I turned to him with icy resolve. You've already lost the right to try. The storm inside me solidified into a single, undeniable truth. This wasn't just betrayal. It was war. And I was going to lose. You shouldn't be here, Sophia. His voice was cold, a mix of surprise and disdain. The dark alley, dimly lit by a flickering streetlight, framed Liam in sharp angles, his broad shoulders tensed under the weight of old grudges. He leaned against the brick wall, his cigarette glowing faintly. The scent of smoke and rain-soaked asphalt filled the air, wrapping around me like a vice. Neither should you. I shot back, refusing to let his icy gaze pierce through my resolve. Liam's lips twisted into a smirk, but his eyes, those deep, stormy eyes, betrayed a flash of something else. Amusement? Or a challenge? The tension between us was as thick as the night itself. He flicked the cigarette to the ground and crushed it under his boot, the sound too loud in the quiet. Still the firebrand. I see. His tone was almost playful, but I caught the undercurrent of bitterness. Cut the crap, Liam, I snapped. You wanted to meet. Talk. I crossed my arms, the chill of the night seeping through my jacket. Talk. About Alex or Elise? He asked, voice laced with mockery. The mention of their names made my stomach churn. I stepped closer, refusing to flinch under his scrutiny. You know something? Don't play games with me. Liam studied me for a long moment, his gaze searching, dissecting. Then, with a sigh, he pulled a crumpled envelope from his pocket and tossed it onto a nearby crate. Start here. I didn't move immediately, wary of the trap it might hold. What's this? I demanded, my voice steady despite the rapid pounding of my heart. Liam shrugged, his expression unreadable proof of who Thomas Carrington really is. His words sent a chill down my spine. I reached for the envelope, my fingers trembling as I pulled out a single photograph. The image was grainy but clear enough to send my mind reeling. A man in a sharp suit, his face obscured, shaking hands with Elise. Behind them, Alex lingered, his expression shadowed with guilt. Where did you get this? My voice cracked. Liam tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. You think Alex is the only one playing dirty? Elise, Thomas, they're running circles around you. The anger bubbling inside me burst to the surface. And you're just a saint in all this. I snapped. His smirk returned, sharp and cutting. Hardly. But I know their game better than you ever will. I was their pawn too once. The weight of his words hung heavy between us. I wanted to hate him, to shove him into the past where he belonged. But his eyes told a story of betrayal I knew all too well. Why are you here, Liam? Why now? He took a step closer, his presence overwhelming, almost suffocating. Because you need me. Like it or not, Sophia, you can't take them down alone. My instincts screamed not to trust him, but the photograph burned in my hands, a reminder of how far this rabbit hole went. What's your price? I asked, my voice low. Liam's smirk faded, replaced by something darker. You'll owe me a favor. When this is over. His terms were vague, his intentions murky. But the shadows of Alex's betrayal and Elise's venomous games left me with no room to maneuver. Fine, I said, the word tasting like ash. He stepped back, his expression a mixture of triumph and something I couldn't place. Smart choice, he said, pulling a card from his pocket. He handed it to me, his fingers brushing mine for the briefest moment. The contact was electric, jarring. Call this number when you're ready for the next move. Without another word, he turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving me alone with the photograph and a gnawing sense of unease. My phone buzzed in my pocket, the sound jarring against the silence. I glanced at the screen. Did you enjoy the first move, Sophia? Elise. My chest tightened as the pieces of this twisted game began to take shape. Liam, Thomas, Alex, Elise, they were all connected. And now I was tangled in their web, a pawn forced to play. The photograph trembled in my hands as I stared into the shadows where Liam had vanished. I was in deeper than I'd ever imagined. This isn't over, I whispered to the night, my resolve hardening. But even as the words left my lips, I couldn't shake the feeling that Liam's favor would cost me more than I was prepared to pay. The card in my pocket felt heavier with every step as I walked away, the dark promise of his alliance echoing in my mind. I was no longer just a player. I was a piece on their board, and they'd soon learn the queen never falls without a fight. But as the cold wind bit through me, one question lingered. Who would betray me next? Your move, Sophia. Elise's text burned into my vision as I gripped my phone tighter, my nails digging into my palm. And just like that, the game escalated. The photo caught fire, someone was watching. Sophia, put that down. Now. Liam's voice cut through the tension like a whip. My fingers froze midair, inches away from the folder lying open on the desk. The dim light of his apartment flickered, casting uneasy shadows across his face. His usually steady demeanor cracked just slightly, betraying his alarm. Why? I asked, my voice steady but my chest tight with apprehension. Afraid of what I'll find. His jaw clenched, but he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, his movements deliberate, like a predator closing in on prey. I snatched the folder before he could reach it, my heart pounding as I flipped through its contents. Names. Transactions. Photos. Elise was there, her sharp features unmistakable, leaning into the frame with a man whose face screamed money and power. But it wasn't just any man. Thomas Carrington, I whispered, the weight of recognition sinking in. My hands trembled as I traced the connections laid out before me: meetings in secret, transfers of obscene amounts of money, and a common goal: Alex's downfall. Liam finally spoke, his voice low and dangerous. This isn't a game, Sophia. Neither is betrayal, I shot back, lifting one of the documents. Elise is working with Carrington to destroy Alex. Sophia, just hear me out. Alex's voice quivered, but it wasn't enough to mask the guilt lurking beneath. His words felt like shards, each one tearing into my resolve. My grip tightened on the crumpled photo in my hand, the one that had stolen every illusion I'd clung to. Alex and Elise, lips locked in a moment of betrayal, framed by the telltale dim light of La Belle Nuit, a place we'd once called ours. Explain, I snapped, my voice a strained whisper. Explain this. I threw the photo onto the table between us. It landed face up, a glaring accusation neither of us could ignore. He looked at the photo, then at me, his jaw tightening. The same hands that had once held me with unspoken promises now hung useless at his sides, fingers twitching as if they longed to reach for me but knew better. It's not what it looks like, he began, his tone pleading. Not what it. I stopped myself, a bitter laugh escaping. Don't. Just. Don't. My voice cracked, the weight of everything pressing down until I felt like I'd suffocate. But I refused to cry. Not in front of him. Not for him. Sophia, please, he said, stepping closer. There's more to this than you know. I stepped back, the distance between us a small shield against the tempest raging inside me. Oh, I know enough, I spat, my anger sharpening each word. I know Elise has been manipulating you. I know she's working with Carrington. And I know. My voice faltered, but I forced myself to continue. I know you let her. His head snapped up, his eyes wide with something that looked like panic. For a moment, I saw the Alex I thought I knew, the man who would have moved heaven and earth to protect me. But that man was gone. Or maybe he'd never existed. I didn't let her. Don't lie to me, I screamed, the dam of my composure finally breaking. Do you have any idea what it's like to piece together the truth? To see everything fall apart because you. I choked on the words, shaking my head. You betrayed me. He froze, his hands curling into fists at his sides. The silence stretched between us, heavy with everything left unsaid. You're right, he admitted finally, his voice barely audible. I betrayed you. The confession hit me like a physical blow. My knees buckled, but I caught myself. Refusing to show weakness. But, he continued, stepping closer, you don't know the whole story. I met his gaze, searching for a flicker of the truth. But all I saw was desperation. Then tell me, I said, my voice trembling. Make me understand. He hesitated, the seconds dragging into an eternity. Then finally he spoke. Elise. She blackmailed me. She had evidenced things from my past, things I couldn't let come to light. And Carrington. He used her to get to me. To ruin me. His words hung in the air, a tangled web of excuses and half-truths. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But the image of him with Elise, her lips on his, burned in my mind like a brand. And you thought I didn't deserve to know? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. You thought lying would protect me. I didn't want to drag you into this, he said, his voice breaking. You don't know what they're capable of, Sophia. They'll destroy you. They'll destroy us. Us. The word twisted in my chest, a cruel reminder of what we once were and what we could never be again. There is no us, I said, the finality in my tone cutting through the air like a blade. Not after this. His face crumpled, but I didn't let it soften my resolve. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Wait. I froze, my hand on the doorknob. Slowly, I turned to face him. What now? I asked, my voice hollow. Stay, he said, his eyes pleading. Stay with me. Trust me. I stared at him, the weight of his request pressing down on me. Trust him, after everything. Why? I asked, my voice laced with disbelief. Why should I trust you? He stepped closer, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. Because I love you, he said, the words raw and unguarded. And because I can't do this without you. My heart wavered, but my mind screamed to resist. This wasn't love. Love didn't shatter you and leave you bleeding on the floor. Love didn't feel like this. Before I could respond, the sound of shattering glass broke the tension. We both turned toward the noise, our bodies tensing. What the Alex began. But his words were cut off by a crash from the hallway. My pulse raced as heavy footsteps echoed, growing louder with each passing second. Sophia, Alex said, his voice low and urgent. Stay behind me. But I wasn't sure I trusted him to protect me not anymore. The door burst open, and I barely had time to react before a man stepped inside, his face obscured by shadows. You should have walked away, the intruder said, his voice cold and menacing. I glanced at Alex, his face pale but determined. He reached for something, a weapon. A plan. I didn't know. But one thing was clear. The truth wasn't just bitter. It was deadly. Sophia, don't move. Liam's voice sliced through the air like a razor, sharp enough to still my steps. My heart raced, an erratic drumbeat against the silence of the room. The dim light from the chandelier above cast long shadows across his face, making him look like a stranger. The warmth that had once softened his features was gone, replaced by something cold, calculating. What's this about? Liam. I kept my voice steady, but my knees threatened to give way beneath me. My hand gripped the edge of the table, anchoring me against the storm brewing in my chest. Liam stood a few feet away, holding a folder that looked suspiciously familiar. Elise's handwriting scrawled across the top. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, Liam said, his tone dripping with mock admiration. The smirk tugging at his lips felt like a slap. How long had he been pretending? Pretending to be my friend, I snapped. Was it fun, watching me unravel while you orchestrated everything behind the scenes? My words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't care. The betrayal stung too deeply for tact. Liam's gaze didn't falter. If anything, my anger seemed to amuse him. Friendship, Sophia. Really, did you think that's all I wanted? His words sent a chill down my spine. What are you talking about? He stepped closer, the folder now dangling from his hand like a weapon. I did everything for you, Sophia, he said, his voice softening, but the edge of menace remained. All the lies, all the sacrifices. It was for you. The sincerity in his tone didn't match the venom in his words. My head spun. Was he delusional, or was I missing something? You call this love? I asked, incredulous. Destroying Alex? Manipulating Elise? Playing with my life like it's a game. I didn't recognize my own voice, raw, trembling with emotion. Alex deserved it, Liam spat, his mask slipping. After what he did to me, to us. Us. The word hit me like a punch to the gut. My eyes narrowed, searching his face for answers. And then it hit me. This isn't about me, is it? I said, the realization knocking the air out of my lungs. This is about Alex. You're using me to get to him. His silence was confirmation enough. What did he do to you? I demanded. What could possibly justify this level of cruelty? Liam's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening like a storm cloud. He took everything, Liam said, his voice trembling with barely contained rage. My family's company, my father's legacy. Everything. And you. He stopped, taking a deep breath. You were just collateral damage. The room spun, the weight of his words crushing me. Collateral damage. Was that all I'd ever been? You're a monster, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Liam chuckled, a bitter sound that made my skin crawl. No, Sophia, he said, leaning closer. I'm what Alex made me. And if you think he's innocent in all this. He paused, his lips curling into a cruel smile. You don't know him at all. His words were a dagger, twisting in my chest. Had Alex lied about more than Elise? Was Liam's vendetta justified? You're lying, I said, though my voice lacked conviction. Alex isn't perfect, but he wouldn't dash. Wouldn't what? Liam interrupted. Wouldn't betray you. Wouldn't keep secrets. He stepped back, tossing the folder onto the table. See for yourself, he said, his tone taunting. But be prepared. The truth isn't as pretty as you think. My hands trembled as I reached for the folder. Part of me wanted to rip it apart, to throw it in his face, and deny him the satisfaction. But another part, a darker, more desperate part, needed to know. What's in here? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Proof, Liam said simply. Of who Alex really is. Of who you really are. His words sent a jolt of fear through me. What do you mean? I demanded. Liam's smile widened, and for the first time, I saw something truly unhinged in his eyes. You think Alex is the only one with secrets, he said, his voice a low, dangerous whisper. Oh, Sophia, you have no idea who you really are, do you? The room seemed to tilt as his words sank in. Stop playing games, I said, my voice cracking. What are you talking about? You'll find out soon enough, Liam said, his tone almost gleeful. But let's just say, your past is as tangled as your present. He turned to leave, but not before throwing one last dagger my way. When you're ready for the truth, he said, pausing at the door, come find me. But don't take too long. Time isn't on your side. And with that, he was gone, leaving me alone with the folder and the weight of his words. I stared at the table, my mind racing. Could I handle what was inside? What are you hiding, Alex? I whispered to the empty room. The folder sat there, a Pandora's box of truths waiting to be unleashed. But Liam's final words echoed in my mind, chilling me to the core. Time isn't on your side. And for the first time, I realized. He might be right. So, you still think Alex deserves mercy? Liam's words lingered in the cold air, seeping into the dimly lit room like poison. I tightened my grip on the folder, trying to keep my hand steady, but it was useless. My heart pounded, each beat echoing in my ears louder than the last. I don't trust you, Liam, I said. My voice was firmer than I felt, the tremble in my chest betraying the confidence I wanted to project. Liam leaned back against the edge of the desk, his eyes glinting with a mix of amusement and menace. That's smart of you, he replied, his smirk sharp enough to draw blood. He tapped the edge of the desk, a lazy rhythm that somehow made the tension in the room unbearable. But trust isn't what I'm asking for. My lips parted, a retort forming, but the weight of his gaze stopped me. You're asking for vengeance, I said finally. Liam's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes flickered. Was it satisfaction? Approval? Whatever it was, I hated it. Not vengeance, he corrected. Justice. I laughed, a short, bitter sound that tasted like bile. Destroying Alex's life. Ruining everything he's built. That's not justice. Liam, it's cruelty. His smirk vanished. The air between us thickened, heavy with unspoken truths. He's done worse, Liam said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that made my stomach churn. I wanted to ask what he meant. I wanted to know, but the look in his eyes warned me that whatever answer he gave would cost me something I couldn't afford to lose. And you're no saint either, Sophia, he added, his tone casual but the accusation sharp. My breath hitched. What are you talking about? His silence was worse than any insult. I stepped closer, my anger rising like a tide I couldn't control. If he wanted me to play his game, fine. But I wasn't going to do it on his terms. If you have something to say it, I demanded. Liam tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he was in no hurry to solve. You think Alex is the villain, he said finally. And maybe he is. But you're not the hero of this story, Sophia. My pulse quickened. What's that supposed to mean? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small USB drive. You want answers? Here. He held it out, but I didn't move to take it. What's on it? The truth, he said simply. About Alex. About you. About everything. My fingers itched to grab it, but fear rooted me in place. Why should I believe you? Liam sighed, his frustration barely concealed. Because I'm not the one lying to you, he said. Not about this. His words stung because they felt true. And what do you get out of this? I asked, narrowing my eyes. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The satisfaction of watching Alex lose everything, just like he made me lose everything. His voice cracked on the last word, and for a moment, I saw something raw beneath his cold exterior. And me? I asked softly. What happens to me in all of this? Liam's smile faded. That depends on you, he said, his tone unreadable. The room seemed to shrink around us, the walls pressing in, suffocating me with choices I didn't want to make. This is insane, I whispered, shaking my head. Liam's gaze hardened. No, Sophia, he said. What's insane is pretending Alex hasn't been lying to you for years. What's insane is trusting a man who sees you as nothing more than a pawn. My throat tightened. You don't know that, I said, though the words felt hollow. He took a step closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Then prove me wrong. The challenge hung in the air between us, daring me to pick a side. My fingers brushed the folder on the desk, then moved to the USB drive. Both felt like ticking time bombs. If I do this, I said, my voice trembling, there's no going back. Exactly, Liam said, his smirk returning. So make your choice. I hesitated, my heart warring with my mind. And then I saw it. A single piece of paper peeking out from the folder. The heading caught my eye, Power of Attorney, Alex Monroe. My blood ran cold as I read the next line. No, I breathed. Liam's smile widened. Uh, Now you're starting to see, he said. My hands trembled as I scanned the document, the truth unraveling in front of me like a nightmare I couldn't escape. Alex hadn't just been hiding secrets. He'd been trying to protect me. From Liam. You've been lying to me, I said, my voice shaking. I told you, Liam said, his voice eerily calm. Alex isn't innocent. But neither am I. I stepped back, the weight of the folder, the USB drive, and the truth pressing down on me. Liam reached for the door, pausing to glance over his shoulder. Choose wisely, Sophia, he said. Because once you open that Pandora's box, there's no closing it. And then he was gone, leaving me with nothing but questions and a choice I wasn't ready to make. So you're really going to face Elise? Liam's voice was a soft challenge, cutting through the stillness of the room like a blade. His words floated around me, their weight pressing against my chest. He stood there, arms crossed, eyes like steel, watching me with the intensity of someone who had already placed his bets. I swallowed hard. This was it. I'd walked this tightrope for too long, and now the ground was crumbling beneath me. You don't have to do this. Sophia. His eyes softened just for a moment. It was almost like he cared. But I could see it now. His care wasn't about me. It was about his own twisted idea of what justice was. There was no way to ignore that anymore. He wanted my decision to be the one that would break Alex B. But it was clear now. If I walked down that path, I wouldn't just be betraying him, I'd be betraying everything I'd stood for. And why should I trust you? The words slipped out before I could stop them. I wasn't sure if I was asking him or myself, but the question lingered like smoke in the air. Liam's smile was like a secret, too sharp, too knowing. Trust doesn't matter now, Sophia. What matters is your choice. Is it Alex? Or is it me? His words were venomous, but they also twisted something inside me. Was I really choosing sides? The thought felt surreal, but the evidence in my hands, the USB, the documents, the truth about Alex, it was all there, screaming at me. But my heart, it refused to believe it. I don't owe you anything, Liam. Not after everything you've put me through. I stood up straighter, willing myself to show the strength I so desperately wanted to believe I had. Liam had tried to break me, to manipulate me into playing his game. But I wasn't his puppet anymore. Not like this. Liam's eyes flickered for a second, something almost human behind them. But that was all it was, a flicker. Just a brief moment of vulnerability that I could never afford to trust. You're wrong. You owe me the truth. He stepped forward, his tone no longer cold but quietly insistent. I could feel the pressure building around us, like the walls were closing in. My pulse was hammering in my throat, a painful rhythm of indecision. But that wasn't why I felt suffocated. Elise, the woman who had started all of this. She had never stopped watching from the shadows, pulling strings, twisting truths. She had a hold on everything I cared about, and now, it was time to face her. To stop running. You think facing her will solve everything. It won't. You'll just be walking into her trap. Liam's warning was a quiet growl, his voice tinged with frustration. But it only made me more resolute. Then let it be a trap. The words were out of my mouth. Before I could stop them, I didn't need him to protect me. Not anymore. I had been running for too long, too scared of what would happen if I confronted the monster Elise had become. But now I couldn't stay in the dark any longer. I couldn't let her continue manipulating me, controlling every step I took. Not when I knew the truth. Liam's eyes narrowed, a flicker of doubt in them before he smirked. You're sure about this? Because once you confront her, there's no turning back. He was right. There would be no turning back. Not after everything Elise had done. Not after everything she had taken from me. I don't care. I need to see her. Face to face. For once, I need to know the truth, all of it. My heart raced as I said the words aloud. It was as if I had been waiting for this moment, for the fear, the anger, and the need for closure to converge into something powerful. Something unstoppable. Liam said nothing for a long moment, just watching me with that unreadable expression. Then finally he spoke. Don't say I didn't warn you. The tension in the room was palpable. My breath came fast, each inhale shaking my lungs, each exhale a sharp tremor in the silence. I didn't know if I was making the right decision, but I knew I was making the only one I could. Elise had to be stopped. I grabbed the USB from the desk, feeling its cold weight in my palm. The truth was in my hands. But was I strong enough to face what I would learn? I'm doing this. I'm going to end this game. I could feel Liam's eyes boring into my back as I moved toward the door. He didn't stop me, but his words echoed in my mind like a warning bell. If you think you can handle this, go ahead. But remember, you won't be the same when it's over. Uh, I didn't turn back. I couldn't. The thought of Elise, the woman who had twisted everything around me, was all-consuming now. She had made me question everything: my trust in Alex, my own heart, my future. But I wasn't going to let her win anymore. Not this time. I stepped into the night, the weight of my decision pressed down on me. The air felt colder now, as if the world was holding its breath. And for a moment, wondered if I was walking straight into hell. But there was no other choice. I had to face Elise no matter the cost. I would stop her, even if it destroyed me. Elise, I'm coming for you. And with that, I walked into the unknown, my future uncertain, my heart torn between love, vengeance, and the truth. Do you think this will really end anything, Sophia? Elise's voice sliced through the tension in the air, cold and mocking. The moment I stepped into the room, everything I'd tried to suppress erupted into flames. She stood there, that same calculating look in her eyes. The woman who had twisted my world with lies, now waiting, her thin smile never wavering. You really think you can take me down? I could hear the challenge in her voice. Her gaze was heavy on me, and I swallowed hard, trying to steady my nerves. This wasn't just another conversation. This was the end of everything. Alex was behind me, silent but strong, his presence a shield I hadn't known I needed until now. But the air around us crackled with danger, and my heartbeat drummed in my ears, drowning out the logical thoughts in my head. Could I really do this? Could I really face her? Elise, I started, my voice stronger than I felt. This ends now. You can't hide behind your games anymore. My hands trembled, but I clenched them into fists at my sides. This wasn't about me anymore, it was about everything she had destroyed. And Alex. Alex was here, beside me. He was all the strength I needed. You think you're some kind of hero? Elise laughed, the sound a jagged edge. This is far from over, Sophia. You're in deeper than you know. Her words hit like a punch, and I staggered back, momentarily lost in her manipulation. But then I remembered. The truth. The USB. Alex's loyalty. I wasn't alone in this fight. We know everything, Elise, Alex finally spoke, his voice low but steady. And the game ends tonight. His words hung in the air, like a final warning. I could feel Elise's eyes narrow, her smile slowly fading into a mask of pure venom. You have no idea what you're up against, she hissed, the tone dark and twisted. And that was when the tension broke. In an instant, Elise lunged. Everything happened so fast I barely had time to react. Alex was already moving, but Liam, Elise's right-hand man, was there too. The force of their bodies colliding sent a sharp scream from my lips. Alex! The sound of Alex grunting in pain was drowned by the sharp crack of fists meeting flesh. My heart pounded, a mix of fear and rage swelling inside me. This was the moment. It had to be. But as the fight raged on, something went wrong. Elise's hand reached out, a flash of metal gleaming in the dim light. No, my voice was a scream, but it was too late. The knife, sharp and merciless, found its mark. Alex staggered back, his hand pressing to his side as blood seeped between his fingers. The sight of him crumpling to the floor sent a cold wave crashing through me. Alex, I rushed to his side, the world spinning out of control. The fight continued around us, but I could barely focus on anything but his blood staining the floor beneath us. Sophia. Alex's voice was a hoarse whisper, but I could hear the weight of it in every word. Stay with me. Don't let her win. His hand brushed mine weakly, his eyes locking onto mine with that familiar intensity. But he was fading. Fast. I couldn't lose him, not like this. Not when everything was on the line. I'm here, Alex. I won't let her take you. But even as I said the words, I knew the truth. Elise wasn't just trying to take him from me, she was trying to take everything. Panic threatened to take over, but I refused to let it. I wasn't going to lose him. Not after everything. I pressed my hand harder against his wound, doing my best to stop the bleeding, but nothing could stop the fear in my chest. You promised me you'd make it through this, I whispered, my voice breaking as I watched him struggle to stay conscious. I promised, Alex whispered back, his eyes fluttering closed. But you have to finish this. Sophia. Stop her. For both of us. His words cut deep, and with every passing second, it felt like the world was slipping away from me. Elise. Liam. They were still out there. They weren't going to let us go easily. The room felt like it was closing in on me, but I couldn't back down now. Not when I had a chance to end this. Alex, hold on. Please. Just hold on, I begged, but it was useless. His grip on my hand loosened, and my world started to crumble. And then, just as quickly, the door slammed open. More footsteps echoed, distant but growing louder. Was this it? Was this how everything ended? My vision blurred with tears as I fought to steady my breath. But in the chaos, a sudden realization hit me like a freight train. The game wasn't over. Not yet. Not by a long shot. Sophia, look out. The warning came too late. I turned, just in time to see Liam charging toward me, rage in his eyes. The last thing I remembered before everything went black was his face twisted in fury. But something else there too. Something darker than I'd ever seen before. And then, silence. Sophia, it's not over. Not yet. The room spun around me as I tried to keep my vision focused. Alex's words echoed in my ears, but they felt distant, as if they were spoken from a place far beyond me. I couldn't breathe. His blood, my God, so much blood seeped through my fingers. Panic clawed at my chest, but I held on, pressing harder against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. My hands shook uncontrollably, but I refused to let go. He couldn't die. Not like this, no. I won't let him go. Please, Alex, stay with me, whispered, my voice barely a breath. He didn't respond, his eyes fluttering, the edges of his vision blurring with each passing second. But he was still there, still breathing. I could hear the raggedness in his breath, and it gave me hope, however small it was. Suddenly, the door slammed open, and I jerked my head up, startled. The footsteps that followed were heavy and rapid. Who the hell? A shadow filled the doorway. I didn't need to see their face to know it was Liam. The fury in his eyes, the way his chest heaved with every step, it was unmistakable. You think you're the hero now? Sophia. His voice was like venom, dripping with contempt. But even as his words hit me, a strange calmness settled in my chest. I couldn't let him see how scared was. I stood up, stumbling slightly, unwilling to let Alex face this nightmare alone. What do you want, Liam? My voice was firm, but my heart pounded so loudly in my ears I could hardly hear myself. His lips curled into a cruel smile, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw something more than hatred in his eyes, something darker. Something that made me shiver. You have no idea what you're dealing with. You think you can stop Elise and me. You're just a pawn in this game. I swallowed, trying to shake off the doubt gnawing at me. He wasn't wrong. Not entirely. Elise's web of lies, her control over Liam. It all ran deeper than I could have ever imagined. You'll be sorry, Sophia. I always keep my promises. And just like that, the warning bells went off in my mind. I didn't have time for this. I took a step back, glancing at Alex's pale face, knowing I couldn't afford to waste another second. His life depended on me, and there was no time to deal with Liam. But then, as I turned my attention back to him, I saw something that made my blood run cold. His hand, the one that had once been holding Elise's knife. It was empty now. Liam, where's the... But before I could finish the sentence, Liam turned and dashed out the door, moving too quickly for me to react. The silence that followed was suffocating, and for a split second, I was frozen, wondering if I had imagined it all. Had I just let him go? Did I even have the right to stop him? Alex, I whispered, my voice breaking as I rushed back to his side. I'm sorry. I couldn't stop him. His lips parted in an attempt to speak, but no sound came out. I could see the effort it took for him to even open his eyes. Suddenly, the weight of everything hit me all at once. The betrayal. Elise's cruelty. Liam's escape with the evidence that could destroy everything. It's not over yet, Alex whispered, though his voice barely reached me. I couldn't speak. The words were stuck in my throat, suffocating me. I should have stopped him. I should have fought harder. But I didn't. And now Liam was gone. And Elise's victory was closer than ever. Sophia. His voice was weaker now, the edges of his words fraying as though the thread holding him together was about to snap. But I wasn't going to let it. Don't. Don't do this, I said, my voice almost a plea. You promised me. He nodded weakly, but his grip on my hand loosened once again. The light in his eyes was fading, and my world tilted dangerously toward the dark abyss. Finish this. You have to. For both of us. Those few words hit me harder than anything else. They were a plea. A call to arms. And somehow, I knew that if I didn't act now, I might never have the chance again. I stood up, my knees shaking, but my resolve hardening like steel. I will. I promise. Uh, I don't know how much time passed before I finally caught my breath again. The world felt like it was collapsing around me, but I was done being afraid. I wasn't going to let Liam or Elise win. Not after everything. Sophia, Alex's voice was barely a whisper. You have to stop them. It's not just me they'll hurt. Uh, I nodded, but inside, I was already on my way to something darker. Something that would end this once and for all. But the question lingered in my mind like a shadow. Could I really stop Liam, Elise, and the twisted path they had set in motion? Or had I already lost more than I was willing to admit? I'm sorry. I failed you, I whispered, not sure if he could hear me. But there was no time for apologies, there was only one thing left to do. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for what was coming next. But I had no choice, I'll finish this. I'll make sure they don't win. The room was heavy with the silence of that promise, but I knew one thing for certain. It wasn't over. Not yet. And I wasn't going to let it be. Liam, you think this ends with me? The warehouse reeked of damp concrete and old machinery. Each step I took echoed like a countdown. My chest felt tight, but not from fear. Anger fueled every breath. I wasn't walking into this fight to survive. I was walking into it to end it. Liam stood at the far end of the room, his figure silhouetted against the harsh light from a single overhead bulb. His smirk was infuriating, a mask of arrogance that I was determined to tear off. He didn't move as I approached, didn't even flinch when I stopped a few feet away. You relate, he sneered. For someone so self-righteous, you sure love to play games. I clenched my fists, nails biting into my palms. My voice came out steady, sharper than I thought possible. This isn't a game, Liam. It never was. He tilted his head, feigning curiosity. The cruelty in his gaze felt like a punch to the gut. You're still so naive. Do you think you've won because you're standing here? I didn't answer. I couldn't not when the weight of his words clawed at every wound I'd tried to ignore. Instead, I reached into my jacket and pulled out the flash drive, the one piece of evidence that could dismantle everything he and Elise had built. Recognize this. His smirk faltered, just for a moment, but I saw it. Fear. And that was enough to push me forward. All your secrets, Liam. Every deal, every name. It's all here. His laugh was hollow, forced. Do you think the truth matters, Sophia? People like me don't get punished. We rewrite the rules. My jaw tightened. He was wrong. He had to be wrong. Then why do you look scared? Silence hung between us, thick and suffocating. Liam's expression hardened, and he took a step closer. I didn't back away even when he leaned in, his voice a venomous whisper. You don't have the stomach for this. You're weak. The words hit me like a slap, but I refused to let them land. I thought of Alex, of his blood staining my hands, of every life Liam and Elise had ruined. Weakness wasn't an option anymore. Maybe I was, I said, meeting his glare. But not anymore. He moved faster than I anticipated, lunging for the flash drive. I sidestepped, my reflexes sharpened by desperation. His hand slammed into the wall, missing me by inches. You're going to regret this, he growled. I held up the drive, letting it glint in the light. No, Liam. You are. A loud crash echoed through the warehouse as the doors burst open. Red and blue lights flooded the space, casting long shadows against the walls. Liam froze, his eyes darting to the armed officers pouring in. Liam Turner, the lead officer announced. You're under arrest. I stepped back, my heart pounding as they closed in on him. For the first time, his confidence cracked, his bravado unraveling like a frayed thread. You think this changes anything? He spat, struggling against the officers. You'll never be free, Sophia. Never. His words haunted me as they dragged him away. I wanted to feel victorious, but all I felt was hollow. It's over, I whispered to myself. But as I turned to leave, a familiar voice stopped me in my tracks. Not quite, Elise said, stepping out of the shadows. My breath caught as she emerged, her expression calm, too calm. The air around her seemed to hum with tension. You've done well, Sophia, she said, her tone almost admiring. But there's something you should know. My stomach twisted. She took a step closer, her lips curving into a smile that sent chills down my spine. Liam wasn't working alone, and the one pulling the strings is closer than you think. Her words hit me like a blow, leaving me reeling. Before I could respond, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. The world seemed to tilt beneath me. If Liam wasn't the end of this nightmare, then who was? And how much more was I willing to lose to find out? My knees threatened to give way, but I forced myself to stand tall. Elise's confession replayed in my mind like a broken record, a new wave of dread crashing over me. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Closer than I think, I muttered, my voice barely audible. Who else could it be? The answer I feared might destroy me. Sophia, it's not too late to change your mind. Detective Monroe's voice carried a thread of sincerity, but I couldn't meet his gaze. The metal bars of the holding cell behind him were a cruel reminder of how far Elise had fallen. She sat on the cold bench, her eyes void of the fire that had once burned so brightly. The woman who had orchestrated so much destruction was now stripped bare, exposed for all her sins. Elise, the mastermind. Elise, my best friend. The thought was a bitter pill I had yet to swallow. I'm done running, I said, my voice firm. And I'm done letting people like her decide my life. Monroe nodded, stepping aside as I took one last look at Elise. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. For once, she had nothing to say. When I turned, my heart felt heavier than ever. I wasn't walking away from Elise, I was walking away from the woman I used to be. Outside the courthouse, the air was crisp, biting against my skin. The sky was a pale gray, mirroring the storm raging inside me. Alex stood a few feet away, his hands shoved deep into his coat pockets. His presence was steady, grounding, but it didn't erase the wounds between us. Did it help? He asked, his voice quiet. I hesitated. How do you explain the emptiness that comes with victory? I shook my head. No, but it's over. Alex stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Not everything is over, Sophia. His words hung between us, heavy with meaning. The past months flashed through my mind, his betrayal, my anger, the nights I spent questioning everything. And yet, here he was, still reaching for me. Why are you still here? My voice cracked, betraying the vulnerability I had fought so hard to bury. Alex looked at me, his gaze unwavering. Because I love you. Even when I was too blind to see it, too stubborn to admit it, I never stopped. I wanted to scoff, to push him away again. But the pain in his eyes mirrored my own, and for the first time, I saw how much he had suffered too. Love isn't enough, I said, my words barely a whisper. I know. He took another step forward. That's why I'm asking for something more. A second chance. To prove I can be better for you, for us. The sincerity in his voice chipped away at my defenses. But the scars on my heart still ached. And what if you fail, Alex? What if I do? He reached out, his hand brushing against mine. It was a tentative touch, fragile and full of hope. Then we'll fail together. But at least we'll know we tried. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I had been strong for so long. I didn't know how to be vulnerable anymore. And yet, as Alex stood there, unflinching in the face of my doubt, something inside me shifted. One chance, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We start from the beginning. No lies, no secrets. Agreed. Epilogue. A year later. The garden was alive with color, a stark contrast to the gray clouds that loomed over us a year ago. Alex knelt beside me, his hands buried in the soil as he helped me plant the last of the tulips. You're getting better at this, I teased. You mean I'm no longer killing everything I touch? He retorted with a grin. I laughed, the sound foreign but welcome. It was a small thing, but moments like this felt monumental. Our lives weren't perfect, far from it. The shadows of the past still lingered, but they no longer dictated our future. Sophia, Alex said, his tone soft. I looked up, finding him watching me with an intensity that made my heart skip. Thank you for not giving up on us. I smiled, reaching out to brush the dirt from his cheek. You gave me a reason to believe again. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The scars were still there, reminders of battles fought and lessons learned. But they no longer defined me. This was our new beginning, and for the first time, I was ready to embrace it. His silence was answer enough. Why didn't you tell me? I demanded, stepping closer. You knew, didn't you? From the beginning. Liam's gaze darkened, his stormy eyes meeting mine with unyielding intensity. Because knowing doesn't mean surviving. The words hit me harder than I expected. So what now? I challenged, my voice rising. I'm supposed to just walk away, pretend I didn't see this. Liam's hand shot out, gripping my wrist. The heat of his touch seared through me, his voice a harsh whisper. You'll do exactly that if you want to live. I yanked my arm free, glaring at him with all the defiance I could muster. But deep down, fear gnawed at the edges of my resolve. My phone buzzed, breaking the charged silence. I glanced at the screen, the message blaring like a warning siren. Sophia, stay out of this. Final warning. Anonymous. No name. But the chill running down my spine told me it wasn't a bluff. Liam saw the message over my shoulder, his face hardening into a mask of grim determination. They're already watching, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. You don't understand what you're up against. I squared my shoulders, ignoring the quiver in my voice. Then make me understand, Liam. Or get out of my way. For a moment he looked torn, his expression flickering between frustration and something softer. You don't trust me. Fine, he said, his voice quieter but no less intense. But at least trust yourself enough to know when to walk away. I turned back to the folder, my pulse racing as I pieced together the evidence. Each name and figure was another nail in the coffin Alex didn't even know was being built for him. Liam's shadow loomed over me, his presence both a shield and a warning. You're not walking away, are you? He asked, his tone resigned. I met his gaze, unflinching. You already knew the answer to that. A flicker of something admiration, perhaps passed through his eyes before it vanished behind his usual guarded exterior. Then you'd better be ready for what's coming. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a warning. It was a video. Shaky footage of me entering Liam's apartment. The timestamp was fresh, not even 10 minutes old. They're here, I whispered, holding up the screen. Liam swore under his breath, his hand instinctively reaching for the gun tucked under his jacket. You've got two choices, he said, his voice all business now. Run. Or fight. I looked at him, my heart pounding, and made my choice. Let them come. The crash of glass shattering upstairs was the only warning we got. Adrenaline surged through me as Liam yanked me behind him, his gun drawn. Stay close, he ordered, his tone leaving no room for argument. But as the door burst open and heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway, a single thought consumed me. If this was the price of the truth, was I ready to pay it? Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.